Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub weekend recap show. Big weekend for the Spartans. Went out on the road, something they've only done 3 times this year. Not a road tested team. Went out and got a big split against number 6 Penn State. Absolutely electric weekend. We brought in Nathaniel Bott, who you all know by now. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm good, Clay. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, anytime. So this weekend was setting up, and it's one of those deals that the competition's not getting easier at this point, right? I mean, you pretty much you go up against Miami, Ohio this week. After that, you're looking at a lot of conference play and a lot of talent in this conference, as we've seen. Now, Notre Dame may not be what we probably thought they were. They're still a talented team though, but Penn State on the road, tough place to play. Let's go ahead and start talking about Friday night's game. Now, Friday night's game was, in my opinion, probably the most frustrating game for me this year. And the reason why is because you're on the road, you've got a 4-game winning streak, you're playing the number 6 team in the nation, and you feel like you have the momentum at one point. You feel like you've just fought so hard to get to where you are, and then you just kind of lose it at the end. Nate, what did you feel about Friday night's game?
Yeah, I thought, and it was really the first time we saw this season where Michigan State looked a little wore down in the third period. Penn State, I think, just fed off their arena once they were able to get the equalizer. That last 5 minutes, they really put the pressure on to win it in regulation. And they're the number 6 team the number 6 team in the country for a reason. And Pagula's, outside of maybe Yost, the hardest Big Ten place to play, and it's one of the hardest places to play in the NCAA. So, for the most
Yeah,
part, I thought Michigan State held their own Friday, but obviously frustrating. I'm sure the locker room was frustrated, to lose it there in the end.
yeah, and Friday night's game, you mentioned it. It's just you never feel comfortable against a team like Penn State, no matter what. I was talking to somebody, DMing them on Twitter last night. They said even when Michigan State had 3 goals, excuse me, this was Saturday night's game. After scoring 3, he even said, like, I'm not comfortable. After scoring 5, he's like, I need 6 or 7 to feel comfortable. And that's kind of what you feel against Penn State. And it's not because I almost said Drew DeRitter, holy crap. It's not because Dylan St. Cyr is not a good goalie. It's because you just know Penn State's going to get so many shots on net, typically, that they have a chance to come back at any game. But let's go ahead and dive into the goals. The first goal of the weekend, Matt BASGALL on Friday night. This is kind of a bit of deja vu. I feel like this is the exact spot within a 3-foot radius that he has scored most of his goals this year. And I know I've said it before, man, but it just keeps feeling like at one point coming into the season, I thought, how do you replace Dennis Sasana's production offensively, his puck movement, his scoring touch? I did not expect Matt BASGALL, a freshman, to come in and fill the shoes to the level that he has.
Yeah, he's been a workhorse there on the blue line, and I think towards the end of his USHL this past season, with Omaha, you know, he was pretty successful, scoring wise. So he's certainly showing it, and I think that production that Sasana had, it felt before the season that guys like Nienhuis and Gucciardi would have to be the real guys stepping up, but uh, Basgall's certainly been a surprise, and I'm sure a delight to the coaching staff.
Yeah, I just thought that was a great shot from him. You go up 1-0 after the first period kind of got started off to a good start, a pretty typical game in my opinion. But here's the second goal of the night, Jagger Joshua. And sorry, I got started a little bit late there. It's Joshua kind of wins or excuse me, who won that board battle? Do you remember? I can't tell. Was it Davidson or no?
I think it's Daniel Russell who wins in the.
Okay. There's a board battle. Joshua just takes it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. That's not a goal Joshua would have scored any other year besides this year. Like, I just don't think that he had that in his game in the past. It seemed like before it's just like I'm going to go straight to the net, jam it into the legs, and just see if it gets in. He showed a little bit of finesse, a little bit of some added skill there, and a beautiful goal.
Yeah, I think I'll disagree with you a little bit because the last couple of years he's shown some ability. He's got some soft hands and he makes some of those moves, but they just weren't wasn't finishing them.
Yeah,
This
that
one obviously finishes, and yeah, just a nice power move. Just jumps on the loose puck right away, head down attack, and able to get a good shot on it.
yeah, and you're definitely right. Yeah, he had some trouble finishing, and that's something he's been able to do this year. Already a career high in goals for Jagger Joshua. Um, the third and last goal for the Spartans, Cole Krieger, who had a great weekend, who we'll talk about a little bit later. Um, did you really ever expect it? I don't know why. I just find it funny to see like a Krieger going to the net like this and like showing a bit of a little bit of a dangle, and a little bit of skill like that. It's just kind of funny to see because the first few years it was just not something that we saw a ton of.
Yeah, and I'll say for both of them here in the last this year and last year, it feels like once or twice a game they'll have a play where, you saw it with Cole, his goal against Wisconsin, just end to end, just looks like
Yeah.
an NHL pick, and both the careers have some offensive touch, and you saw it there. But yeah, Cole had a very nice weekend for the Spartans.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk too much about Friday because there's so much to talk about with Saturday's game.
Yes.
It's a tough place to play, like we said, but the way that they lost, where you felt like you had the game at the end there, you felt like you did enough to win at one point, and then you end up losing the game. It's pretty easy for teams to kind of come out flat the next day, maybe, right? Or it seems like it's easier to lose Saturday when you lose in that fashion Friday night, right? That's just kind of how it works often. You get in this, man, we had the game in our hands, we lost it, may come out flat. Not the case at all. Saturday night, a 7-3 win on the road against the number 6 team in the nation. This team came out guns blazing from the very, very start. Um, First off, before we get into the goals and everything, tell us about just your overall thoughts on game 2 and how they kind of responded from game 1.
Yeah, like you said, especially this team in the past few seasons, it felt, especially in Big Ten play, where there'd be a game in the weekend series where it's not very competitive. Michigan State's flat, whether it would be Saturday after playing really tight on Friday, or just responding from a Friday beatdown to showing some heart up the next night. I think it's certainly a character trait that's starting to change with this group, where you look at the opening series of the season. You lose your home opener. You have this brand new renovation, and then you go on the road and you go on the road the next night and you know you win a game that was tight in the end. You look at Notre Dame, you lose 5-0 opening night. It could easily come out the next night, and they're just better than us. And it hasn't been the case with this group. And to lose in the way they did Friday, to come out and score 3 goals in the first 8.5 minutes, and really just, I mean, Pagula is loud, and it is loud from the very get go. And to shut him up right away certainly said something. I mean, if you're prompting a goalie change 8:30 into the game, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, they literally changed their goalie, the guy who they've gone to almost every single game this
Every
year.
single game he started.
9 minutes, not even 9 minutes into the game. Let's go ahead and jump into these goals. The first goal, and this, I'm going to show you the play here. I've listed as Matt BASGALL. That's who they credited up until, I believe, some point today. So, Nate, break down what the scoring change has been, because there's been a change in the scoring here.
Yeah, right there looks like Tanner Kelly is the one who gets his stick on it. I think it might have deflected off a Penn State player before that as well. But yeah, that's going to be Tanner Kelly's 4th goal of the year. BASGALL and Tucker credited
Okay.
with the assists, so Shouty loses one of his 4 assists on the night.
So, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm going to pause. Tanner Kelly is the guy directly in front of the goal. I know there's 3 players in front of the goalie,
Yeah.
but he's the one closest to the goalie. It's kind of hard to track with this software and the everything, but is that where he gets the stick on around right there, you think?
Yeah, it's just right in front of Soulier there. He doesn't get much on it, but it's enough that hey, the last person touches it gets the credit. So
Yeah. I want everyone to note also that was Nathaniel's breakout player this year, I believe, on the preseason
yes, it was.
podcast, which we will be revisiting those probably at the holiday break and at the end of the year to see how we're doing. But
I think I also predicted Jeremy Davidson as leading goal scorer, and it took him up until till last night to get his first. So
what a transition as we look at goal number 2 for the night. Jeremy Davidson, finally. I don't really know what's going on with him. And to be honest with you, I haven't been paying like super close attention to all of his shifts and everything like that. You know, doing 1,000 things during my watch, but it just felt like he was due. And I said that I believe it was against Ohio State. I was like on Friday night of that series, I was like, Davidson scoring tonight because he is freaking due, and he has enough talent to score at any moment. Like we've seen that he's due. Well, he gets here on a nice play where he kind of settles the puck. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but kind of goes down to a knee, settles the puck, heads towards the net, and just beautiful shot to get past the goalie. And that made it 2-0 early in the game. I mean, we're 6 minutes in, and you're looking at 2-0 right off the bat.
yeah, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why Guy Gadowski was comfortable with taking Soulier out after giving up the third, because it's one that he should probably have. He doesn't have any screen in front. The shot's coming from the middle of the left circle. I mean, it's a good shot by Davidson, certainly, and he definitely pounced on a open puck or with Penn State's defensive, breakout just falling apart. But yeah, finally off the schneid for him, and I think part of the reason he's been a little slow is last year, the power play was where he got a lot of time, and he's kind of shifted now to either being on the second unit or maybe not even being featured on the power play. So I think that might be a reason why it's taken him a little bit to get, finally get a goal. But again, just a nice shot, probably one that Soulier would want back, but nonetheless, it made it 2-0 at a big point in the game.
It is funny right here. You can see 5 white jerseys all looking at him. You can see 3 kind of in front or, within the play. I think this guy, like, kind of close to him, but behind him, not the one against the board. It's just like funny to see all of those guys right there kind of watching it happen. I know that they have different assignments and whatnot, but it's just like, it's going your way. But then the third goal and the last goal before they pulled him was another player that has not been putting up the points at the rate that he had last year. And of course, he didn't score a ton he didn't score a ton of goals last year. He put up some points, but that's Jesse Tucker. With another play in a similar location from the last shot, walk us through what you saw here.
Yeah, good zone entry. You get 2 guys crashing into the net. I think Tucker makes a good decision to shoot. Obviously, puts it in a great spot. Again, probably one that Soulier wish he had back. When that play developed, I actually thought Tucker was going to dump it off to, I believe that's Gucciardi coming in to walk in to have maybe a shot, in the middle of the net. But, you get 2 bodies in front, you get enough traffic there, shots like that from the top of the circle go in. So,
yeah, I like what he does right here. And you mentioned it, but there's kind of 2 different things. And with the Jesse Tucker, especially with him, he slows down here a little bit. He lets the players kind of start to get towards the net, get in that position. And what they probably know is Jesse Tucker is more of a playmaker and a distributor than a shooter. And at this point, I thought the whole time the same thing you did. Oh, he's going to pass. Look, he's setting up for Gucciardi. You got, I believe that's Kelly going towards the net. That's what he does. Well, maybe that's what everyone else was thinking too, and he kind of surprised him a little bit. I wouldn't say surprised, but when you are a playmaker like he is, you can kind of sneak that shot in sometimes. And that's exactly what he does. He gets patient and ended up putting in the back of the net.
Yeah, and you look at it, I mean, you get his 2 forwards to take the two backline defenders. They just all push towards the net. You got 9 for Penn State. He's watching for a back backdoor pass, but there's no one really in the area. He probably should have jumped in to help there and have one of those two defensemen for Penn State, jump towards Tucker. That's why he has so much space. You have your back checker late, and he just had a ton of time to take the shot, and he picked the top corner. So,
fourth goal of the night, Carson Dorwart, a player who I just love his game. Big game on Saturday night as well. I wish I had a better clip of this, or I guess I could say a longer clip of this. But do you know who had the secondary assist on this off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's Underwood. So
Underwood, okay, that's
Dorwart,
right.
Dorwart wins the faceoff, which ironically was the only faceoff he won all night. He was 1 for 9 in the dot. He gives it, goes back to Underwood. He gives it back to Dorwart, and you had a nice, pretty much a give and go with Carson and Tiernan, and just they get Grannon at this point. That's Penn State's goalie, the freshman, and you get him sliding right to left, and he just puts it right between his legs.
Yeah, and he's a talented goalie. If anybody listened to the preview show I had with Brian Tripp, who did the play-by-play Friday night, he talked about him, a USA development, I believe, goalie in the past. A talented goalie, but as you know, he's a freshman, and Michigan State brought a lot of pressure. So you can see this one's probably a little bit of puck luck too. But hey, you could take them any way that you can get them.
It's a little bit of puck luck, but the play was there where it was a clear give and go with Shouty and Dorwart. I'm sure Penn State wishes that one of their three guys got their stick on the puck before Dorwart did. But I think in terms of the shot, you get the goalie sliding, and
So right before this goal, we should have mentioned, or I should have mentioned, Michigan State scored 3 in a row. It looked like, oh my God, dude, they're going to steamroll them. They got a new freshman goalie in. Holy crap. Boom, boom, boom. Penn State gets back right before the end of the first. Jagger Joshua, game misconduct, has to leave the game, 5-minute major, and Penn State scores 2. The last one around 4.7 or so seconds before the end of the first. That's usually the type of holy crap, man. You just gifted them momentum. What did you, first off, before we get into their goals, did you agree with the game misconduct call?
I didn't. I think part of that maybe comes a little bit with Jagger's reputation. I think that's his second misconduct this year. I think it's a second, but he's had a few in his career, and it is an interference minor for sure. Even if it was an accident, but you do get a little. You watch the replay. They don't just bump into each other. Jagger's arms come up a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't have called it a 5 and a misconduct, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation. I could see it either way. Probably biased, depending on which fan base you ask. But regardless, it is what it is. And Michigan State lost a player who's scoring goals for them right now, brings a physicality, a little bit of everything. That was his 13th penalty this season, I believe.
Sounds right.
He's really been in the box a lot. That's just kind of the player he is. You get what you get with him. It's just part of it. But regardless of everyone's thoughts on that, Penn State scoring right before the end of the period is what really just drove me nuts. And then they still had over 3 minutes left going into the second on that game misconduct. Just a monumental swing that I truly thought at that moment, I thought, this is the type of stuff that gets Penn State the win tonight. This is the type of momentum, the type of break that they needed. Going in, they're going to come out fresh. 3+ minutes, I believe, 3:27 or so left on this. They're going to continue to score or at least get another one, and it's just going to be too much to overcome. Did you have any type of feeling like that?
You had the feeling. I had the feeling. I'm pretty sure every single player.
I know you already started to write something about that, right?
Same.
You're starting to write that a little bit, probably.
Yeah. So you got to think this arena. Hockey is a game that so much can be built on momentum and atmosphere. And you go from up 3-0, arena's dead. They get one. Oh, things. They're still alive. You get a 5-minute major. Okay, now the crowd's starting to get into it. You score within. I think they scored within 30 seconds of the 5 minutes. And then to get one with 4.5 seconds left to tie it up with, you're going into the locker room. You have a full 15 minutes to work with your power play unit on how we want to attack. And they don't have a single grade A chance in that final 3 minutes and 33 seconds to open up the second period. They didn't have a single grade A chance on their power play. It's, again, I go back to just the way that this team responds to losses or tough situations. Penalty kill comes out of the second, does a fantastic job. And, the rest works itself out with, the offense coming to life there in the back 10 minutes of the middle frame.
Right after that was the Dorward goal that we just saw recently. That put them back up one. I thought, okay, wow, we're going to need a lot more, though. I mean, being up one against Penn State does not make me feel good, especially after we just saw them rack up goals. Well, right after that, now, Cole KRYIGER was credited with this goal originally and last night. I believe this is another scoring change. Can you fill us in?
Yep. This one was a little more clear to me during the game simply just because of the celebration. This is going to be Eric Middendorf's 5th goal of the year. He certainly celebrated like he knew he got a stick on it. But again, Cole KRYIGER jumping into the rush, he, puts a shot on net, and, Penn State's had some success. They have a Big Ten regular season, title. They've had success with their offense and just putting pucks on net. Something good's going to happen, and KRYIGER's able to walk in with some space, and that's what happened.
I love this. Let me find it right about here when you have like two different players celebrating a legitimate goal, like celebration. I can't remember if this was you I asked, so if it was, just interrupt me. But did I ask you or talk to you about the amount of like deflections and redirections earlier this year, like last couple weeks?
I don't think so.
I feel like I've never seen this many, even attempts, not only goals, but attempts at redirections and deflections in front of the net. Have you noticed that, or am I crazy?
No, that's part of the philosophy that you look at, especially on the power play. They've run it a few times. This one particular play with Nico Mueller comes around
Mueller to Daniel Russell in front of the net.
Yeah, Daniel Russell's goal at Bowling Green. They connected on that one. But they've tried it a few times, particularly on the power play. But yeah, and I think just with the blue line, you add in a guy like BASGALL, you return a guy like KRYIGER. You have Gucciardi and Nienhaus. Hertig has shown a little offensive capability. Get those pucks coming in from the blue line. A lot can happen on the way to the net. So, their sticks have certainly been more active than they have in the past, and it's paying off for them.
I love that. I love it. I just think that goalies at this level, the more you make them move, the better. I mean, really at any level, but making goalies move directions, if you can get it to work, I love it. And I love that play that you're talking about with Nico, kind of get some momentum off of the redirect off of Russell. We saw that at Bowling Green. We've seen the few attempts since. So, yeah, I like it a lot. Let's go ahead and talk about Daniel Russell, who scored the 6th goal of the night. Man, at this point, I'm sitting there, and I tend to – sometimes I get fixated on things. And I may be a little over dramatic about it. Am I over dramatic about the second periods this year? I just feel like they're bad. And maybe it's because last year's was so bad and I'm just frustrated. But I feel like the second period has been really awful this season. Has it been as awful as I've made it sound?
Not to throw you under the bus, but no.
Yeah.
Maybe
and I know, and that's why I preference it with that, because I feel like it has. And it is the period that they've scored their least amount of goals, but it probably has not been nearly as bad as I make it sound. But, Man, I don't know why. I just have like burnt into my mind. It's probably from last year as well, but yeah, I know I'm being over dramatic about that.
I think part of it is probably because they've been so good in the third period
Yeah.
to where, when you're watching a game, you're thinking, oh, they didn't do much in the second, and then they, do so well in the third. You're like, where was this all game or whatever, But
Yeah.
I don't think they've been bad really in any periods like consistently enough to like be like this team is you know, they struggle in the second period. But uh, I mean, yeah, it's been the period they've scored the least amount in, but I don't think that they've necessarily played poorly, during those middle frames.
Yeah, and I'm looking it up now just to have an idea of like just how different it is. Do you don't happen to have it in front of you? It's by period. Yeah, so it's actually changed now after last night. So it's score by period. This is college hockey news. 24 goals in the first, 13 in the second, 13 in the third. Does that sound right?
If that's what college hockey news says,
That's what they have.
I
So,
feel like they'd
but
have
yeah,
that.
a big second period here. Um, Coming out and just scoring, and to the point that it was like, okay, we can relax. Sure. I mean, not actually, but you get enough breathing room, right? 6-3, you aren't like, oh my God, we're gonna lose this after they got all that momentum from their first three goals. And at this point, it was more to me a man, this team, no matter what, just has that fight in them, has the dog in them to just no matter what the circumstances, they are not giving up. Walk us through what you saw with this goal. Just a nice rebound and deposit into the back of the net.
Yeah, again, I think you know Penn State's just not marking very well. I think it's a pretty lazy rebound too.
Hmm.
Probably one that it's a shot from pretty far out where he probably could have sent that into the corner off his pad. Instead, it comes right out in front, and
Yeah, that was a
Russell just top
terrible
shelf.
rebound.
But the guy, I can't tell what number that is, but the man marking Russell, I mean, he's way too far off him. You got to, I mean, especially if a shot comes in, what are you taught? You're taught a rebound's going to be there, so you got to get to your man, and he doesn't. And Russell's able to just get a clean shot away. Really, no chance for Grannon on the rebound.
Yeah, he's kind of in all kinds of a position here, and um, Daniel Russell, right place, right time. Man, that was a lot of R's there. It's kind of hard to say. And just puts in the back. Is that 5 on the year for him now?
Yep.
These freshmen have just been incredible. And last goal of the night, battling in the third period. Everyone loves a highlight, right? We all love empty net goal highlights. We don't need to walk through this one. Carson Dorwart, nice little. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like we need to break down it. Now, I do want to ask you something. This is so random. Did you think the net color was a little strange of the goals? Look at it. It looked like, typically they're white, right? Or some variation of white. I thought these looked extremely yellow.
I mean, they look like they got a little tint to them, but I didn't notice it during the game.
I know that this is super important stuff, and I'm sure it's a Sunday night. I'm wasting your time with the net color, but I don't know why it was just bothering me last night. But overall, a good weekend for the Spartans. I think that this was one of those wins on Saturday night after what happened Friday night that they just keep surprising me. They just keep surprising me, and maybe I shouldn't doubt them so much. Things I learned: don't doubt the Spartans. The second period's not nearly as bad as I've been overly dramatic about it, which I kind of probably felt that too. It didn't help that I missed. I think it was Long Island, one of those games I missed, so I didn't get to see that game, but overall a good weekend from the Spartans. Going to Oxford, will you be traveling down there? I assume you won't, but you aren't
No,
going
I
to
won't
Miami.
be.
So
No.
I will be at Miami Friday with my wife. I've somehow convinced her to do that. So there will not be a and I'm moving into a programming note here, but there will not be a recap due to Thanksgiving holidays and me going to the games and whatnot. There will be no live tweeting. Just you all can follow Nathaniel and everybody else for that. And but any final thoughts on the weekend from the Spartans?
Yeah, like you said, they keep surprising, and I think really Dorwart especially has been just an incredible surprise. To start the year, I wasn't so sure he would dress regularly, nevertheless be second on the team in points.
Yeah.
After this Penn State series. So, but yeah, like you said, they keep surprising, and it's a good win going forward, especially the way they were to respond to start out from Friday night and the way that they responded in game, with that second period. So certainly a lot of good things. Miami, Ohio, they're coming off a pretty big weekend split with North Dakota. So
Yeah.
they should be, up and ready to go to welcome MSU.
And I'm not going to act like I know a ton about Miami's team. We saw them last year, and they have a couple of players who I think have a pro future. Just from what I've heard, I've watched 2 total games. The 2 games were against UMass Lowell earlier this season, and I went in there to watch UMass Lowell because they were about to play Michigan State, and I kind of left thinking, oh, man, this Ohio team's better than I thought. This team's not the same team that we may have seen last year. So I'm trying to find somebody from Miami, Ohio that kind of covers hockey to jump on a pod with me this week. Really difficult to do with the short week plus, whatever. So another programming note, that's probably going to be either just me or there may not be one at all. It just depends on time. But thank you, Nathaniel, so much for your time. Thanks always for being willing to come on, especially on a Sunday night during football season. And I know my Bills have your Lions on Thursday. So before we get you out of here, can we get a score prediction for the current 3-game winning streak Lions against my Buffalo Bills Thursday, Thanksgiving?
I'm only 27, but I've been around long enough to not drink the Kool-Aid, as they say. So I'll go Buffalo 35, Detroit 21. A nice.
I said today, after watching the Bills game, oh my gosh, man, the Lions 3-game winning streak. The last thing I ever need is to go into the Lions Super Bowl, which is Thanksgiving Day, with them on a 3-game winning streak. But Bills, give me 38-14. I don't care. We're smashing them. But all right, Nate, thanks so much, man, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Yep, you as well. Enjoy yourself down there in Oxford.